This is Spiritual Biz Chat with Kimberly Maska. Inspiration for spiritual entrepreneurs. Join our spiritual family at spiritualbizmagazine.com. Welcome, Christel, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely. My pleasure. And hello, everyone. Nice to be here.
Fantastic. And I have to laugh and tell my listeners that if you hear us cracking up, we've had quite an interesting morning. I had the fire department at my door. So we've been laughing for a while, so it may come through in the interview, which I love.
Yeah, it's been fun.
So, Christel, you have an amazing story about how you went through your process and started on your life's path as an energetic intuitive. So let's hear your story.
Absolutely. This is not something that you expect that you're going to have, this lightning bolt opening experience, especially if you're a left brainer, which I was. And so, going through my life, having relied on my left brain for so long, it was very interesting when I came to a point in my life where I had worked everything out, the kind of lifestyle I was going to have, the business that I was going to have with my then husband. And with that relationship, unfortunately, he got into an accident which had him get addicted to the medication and actually become abusive. So my whole dream life world of where I thought we were going to be and how we were going to grow together actually came crumbling down. And I was there with him for 6 years trying to work through this addiction. And so, of course, my giver personality, that healer personality was coming out even then. But after 6 years, I knew that I had to get out. I had to actually save myself. At that point, my self-esteem was so low, so I just had to use that last little bit of energy that I had to push through. And I got out. I saved myself, but it landed me on my knees. I actually was, looking up and saying, God, this is not how I'm going to live. So I need all the help that you can send me right now. I only want to live on purpose. I only want to do something that's actually going to make an impact for others. And I want to really support people in knowing who they are. And I need to know who I am. And at that moment, there was some anger in there, but there was also some desperation mixed with that desire and that deep, deep yearning to be used by the divine. So I know all of you out there that have that yearning and don't know how to, quote, make it happen, because that's what the left brain tries to do, make something happen. But instead, what I did is I ended up, interestingly enough, at a New Year's party, and I met someone, and he started telling me about Santa Monica, California. At that time, I was in the desert, and he said, "You've got to come." And so my journey was one that was interesting as I started going to a therapist at that time, telling her, this is what I want. I want to be something. I want to support people. And she said, "You know what?" She said, "Stop trying so hard." She said, "Give yourself a year." And that's what I did. I took a whole year off. I was at the beach, Southern California, and I would rollerblade and I would do my painting and all these things. And, it was countdown time. Okay. So it was almost the year was up. And at that time, I thought, oh my gosh, I think I know what I want to do. I'm going to go back and get my degree as a psychotherapist. And I told her, and she was not happy at all. She goes, "What are you talking about? Why would you want to do that? You've been through School of Hard Knocks, why would you want to do that?" No, she said, "Go and write out what you love to do." So of course I turned the fireplace on there, and I get my hot tea, and I'm, sitting in front of the fireplace, and I've got my notepad and my purple pen, and I'm like writing out interior design and, all these different things that I love doing. And hypnosis came out on the page. And I look at it and go, hypnosis? What in the world? I know nothing of hypnosis. Well, the next day, as I was rollerblading with my friend, we saw the learning annex. And on the back was an ad that said, "Would you like to help people, overcome unhealthy habits, limiting beliefs, join the school. And it was a hypnotherapy college. In fact, the only accredited hypnotherapy college was literally 15 minutes from my door.
That's
and
great.
I was in the aha moments. I go back and tell my friend, and he's like, are you just going to be a student all your life? Like, okay. Don't let anything hold you back. So anyway, I end up going to the school and the Behavioral Science Center in Southern California. And as I was there, literally people would come up to me and they would say, you're clairvoyant, right? You know that you have these abilities. Well, I didn't even know what clairvoyant meant. I had to go look it up in the dictionary, no kidding. And I started that program. 6 months later, the director said, you need to be a professor. We're going to actually put you in the counseling position. You're going to counsel the students here, and then we're going to work you up to being a professor. That was 6 months in a year-long program. That blew my mind, but I had the desire to help people, so I started as a counselor working there. And, before that, with my life with my ex-husband, he's a dentist. And we had, in a small community with only 2 operatories, had taken his business to $450,000 the first year, which was pretty good in a small town of only, 15,000 people. But here I was, working at the Behavioral Science Center thinking, who am I to be doing this when I'm actually a student? Who am I to be here? And then also when he mentioned that, oh, you need to be a professor here, a teacher, I got sick to my stomach because I have a fear of public speaking.
Oh my goodness.
So there was no way that I was going to do that. But the truth is that I used the other person there that was recommended to me that was not only a certified clinical hypnotherapist, but she was a healer and she was a clairvoyant herself. And when I went to see her, again, the first thing out of her mouth when she looked at me was, you're an intuitive. You know that you can heal and you're clairvoyant. And I got so upset. And I said, why do people keep telling me this? I don't even know what that means. And she helped me work on overcoming my fear of, speaking. And so my career started at that point in hypnotherapy, clinical hypnotherapy. But what I really wanted was to actually help people overcome this sense of, mostly women who had gone through situations where they had lost themselves in relationship. They had lost themselves in the world, or maybe even they were under, this idea that they had to become something instead of understanding who they are and what their power was. So my mission was about taking back your power and living your purpose. And I ended up volunteering for Agape Spiritual Center. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them. They're close by you.
Yep.
Dr. Michael and Ricky Byers-Beckwith. And I was a co-producer for one of Ricky Byers' events. It was a huge event. And now my healer had told me, she said, you're going to have a shift. And she said, but you're in such denial of who you are that it may not happen. Well, to me, that was like a slap in the face. I was like, oh my God, no, I want to live my purpose. I want to be who I am. How do I do this clairvoyant thing? And so meanwhile, waiting for the shift, I had really spent time sitting in silence, connecting with what I just thought were my guides, but, I couldn't really get to them. I didn't know how to hear them. And it was really awkward, but I still did it and put time in. Meanwhile, here I am at, Agape Spiritual Center, this huge event, literally like four nights of concerts, right? I'm exhausted on the last day. And with that event, we actually had a fair, it's like outside at night, all these booths, it was so loud. And one of the people who had the booths did Qigong, and she looked at me and she says, you're a volunteer here, right? And I said, yeah, I'm helping out. And she said, well, why don't you let me do some work on you? She says, my guides are telling me that you can look into my third eye and you have a message for me. And I said, what? I don't know what you're talking about. I said, the only thing I know how to do is I took this Reiki class and I'm attuned. And when I put my hands on people's chakras, I get visions. And she goes, well, okay, I'll do you first and then you do me. And so she does this weird thing. She's whacking my back and pulling my fingers and, all this stuff. And I'm not knowing what in the heck this is. And then she says, okay, now you do me. I go, I don't know what to do. I go, but she said, just do what you know to do. I'm like, okay. So I close my eyes. I put my hands down. Remember, we're in this whole fair/carnival going on at nighttime, right? Lots of people, hundreds. So I close my eyes. I put my hands over her third eye. And I instantly see this dove flying around with an olive branch. And that wasn't so big because I'm used to seeing images, but I heard like cracking loud lightning coming through. You will create a program for the community to bring health and healing. And I was like, oh my God, I pulled my hands back and I still saw the dove with my eyes open. And I'm like, oh my God, I had my shift. I had my shift. I had my shift. And she's like, hey, what was the message? What was the message?
You're like, I don't know.
oh, you're going to create some program for the community that's going to bring about health and healing. And she goes, oh my God, you're 100% right. It's already started. It's called the Community Healing Project. And she said, I go to different people's yoga studios and we actually set up 4 or 5 practitioners, which is a brilliant model, by the way. And people come and they pay a nominal fee and they get to experience these different holistic healers because it's about bringing alternative types of, healing medicine and things to people. And she had called me literally, she's like, you're so accurate. Will you be one of the practitioners at the Community Healing Project? Well, I ended up saying yes, even though I thought, what in the heck am I going to do? But at that point, I realized I called my healer. I'm like, I've had my shift. She goes, oh, good, go heal. I'm like, go heal. And I was like right back at that place, right? So that Community Healing Project allowed me to, at first, obviously, I'm putting my hands on people's chakras and giving them readings. But at that point, it was specific. I was very certain about that information coming through. And so that was my opening. That's how I got started. And the Spiritual Trainer to the Stars actually came about because there's a woman who is really well known as she had a TV show at that time and has been working in the business. And her house was the one that had the yoga studio in it. And so I met her, and it was someone on Desperate Housewives. I met her, and then from there, I started meeting all these different stars, and it went on and on and on, where now I've been flown all over the world, to the UK, to the Philippines, all over the US, to actually support people in being able to take back their power, hold their energetic stance within their body and be able to channel light and to hold space and be fully grounded in the truth of who they are, despite what's going on in their environment. And so out of this whole thing, I have created a modality called the Integrative Soul Technology Process, and the Academy for the Soul has now launched, and it's over 9 countries now worldwide. So that's where it's all, that's where it started, and that's where it's gone.
That's amazing. And I always love it when someone just looks at you and says, this is what you're supposed to be doing. And you're like, really? How do you know that? And then they're right.
Well, now I have the fortune of actually supporting people who say, I think I'm intuitive, Christel. I think this is what I'm supposed to do, to actually honing in. I do an intuitive assessment where I literally have created a template. How does one intuit specifically? How do they flow energy through their body? And I think for everyone out there, when you look at, okay, what do I do? Go a level deeper. And for me, when I started doing the intuitive assessments and going deeper into, my scientific left brain mind, that's what it's good for, is actually create something that sets you apart from other people, if it's a mass field, like a life coach or something, for me, I wanted to get deep down into exactly how someone does what they do, and they're intuiting, and the specifics. Are you a clairvoyant? Are you a clairaudient? Are you a clairsentient? Are you clairgnostic? And go deeper into whatever you're doing, and really allow yourself to examine what you're doing, and to make it very practical and make it very easy for someone to get that initial thing that's going to provide so much information for them. The intuitive assessments now obviously are a tool that I use because it gives someone instant confirmation and validation over something that they've been experiencing their whole life, but they didn't know how to put words to it. And I can put words to what they do. I can put words to what their gift is.
Which is so beautiful, because you're right. When you got that inkling, you're like, I think I should be doing this, but you're not sure. And how do you do it? So that's amazing that you can help them find that gift.
It's not, when people say, what is my purpose? They actually think that there's this one thing that they're supposed to do. And the way that I see it is I see it a little bit differently, because what I see is I see you as this container, and I see that the universe wants to flow energy, life force through you, specific information. And that's how I see light. I see light as information, right? And the universe wants to flow light through you. And because you are a unique container, it actually comes out in a unique way. So not all life coaches are equal. Not all intuitives are equal. We actually have such a unique distinction within our being and our blueprint of our soul, that it's very easy for me to get way down deep and say, actually, what you're doing when you're reading someone intuitively is this. I have an example of someone that, Audrey Gardner. So interesting, because here she was, she's in her 60s, and she comes to me and she says, I couldn't move my leg when I first started taking your classes. And she says, now I'm able to walk. She goes, I can move my leg, I can bend my knee, and now I'm able to walk. She says, but ultimately, she says, my whole life people have been saying that I make a difference in their life, and that, I'm actually doing something when I'm talking to them, and I don't know how to put words to it. And she says, Christel, I'm retired now, so I'm not expecting a miracle. But when I actually started speaking with Audrey, I started realizing that what she does when she reads someone else is that she actually channels a vibration of truth that she immediately shifts their soul. Okay, so we came up with what Audrey does. Audrey does soul shifting sessions. Okay, so that's so different than just saying, I'm an intuitive coach, right? Soul shifting sessions, it's the distinction of exactly what she's doing and the description of what that actually means, not in a woo-woo kind of out there, but to really give words and give examples in the vibration of what's coming through her as truth. You don't mess around with Audrey, right? And so you're taking someone now where here she was, she didn't know anything about what she did, to now having her website, doing the soul shifting sessions. Her daughters both emailed me and said, thank you. She's leaving this legacy. She's happy. She can walk. She's released weight off of her body. She's coming back to life. And that's what you have to remember. When you see yourself as this beautiful container for that dynamic light of the divine to flow through you, start to ask this question: how specifically does the universe want me to use this light and use this information? What does it want to create through me? And that will give you a new perspective on how you want to write your bio, present yourself out into the world, and how you want to actually share with people what your gift is.
That's so fantastic how you point out that everyone has their unique ability. Like, you're not just an intuitive, but what are you? And when you can define that message, then you can actually help more people, because they know specifically what you're going to deliver and how you're going to shift their lives, which is so important.
And it's a, for me in what I do, I mean, as a multisensory intuitive, it's like everything comes in at once, right? So I get the visual, I get the auditory, I get the feeling tone. And so if you're out there right now and you're saying, yes, Christel, you're speaking my language, I know I get these types of hits. What you want to do, and it's your job to do this, it's your job to discover how you actually come to that information. And you want to be able to say to someone, this is how I get the pieces of the puzzle, and I'm going to put them together for you in this way and deliver it in this way. Don't be afraid to actually learn that part. Because when you learn that part, when you really go deeper and you take the time to do that, you're profiling yourself. And when you profile yourself, then you're going to be able to speak to that. You'll be able to convey that and communicate it very clearly. And with that, the delivery is going to hit in their heart. They're actually going to understand, and the vibration, remember, is going to match that. So every time I do an intuitive reading, I'm really doing a healing on someone, right? Because truth that flows through, that hits a heart, what happens? All the cells in the whole structure of their body shift. I want all of you to really understand the truth of who you are and to be able to profile yourself and deliver that. So you can do the obvious, where you ask your friend, hey, tell me what you see in me. You really want to go within as well and make sure that you're starting to see, how do I put these puzzle pieces together? And do not discount every little nuance of what you do. Every tiny little step of you doing what you do so well, when you can convey and put words to that, someone will get it, and they will resonate, and their heart will open just by you communicating who you are, telling your story.
And that's such an interesting point, to profile yourself, which I think is probably one of the most difficult things to do, right? To go inward and see who we really are. But that is something that I don't think people talk about. I don't hear people talk about, well, let's go deep into who I am before I turn around and decide how I'm going to help people. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, because they're so concerned about who's your ideal client, right? How many times do we actually, and it's fascinating, who is your ideal client? How do you know? Well, I always do things the opposite way when I'm reverse engineering. So again, this is why I'm not just someone who's very light on the surface, as you can probably tell. I have a depth to me. Sometimes I get serious, but overall, I do have a lightness about me, right? But when we're looking at profiling, this is what we do all the time. I mean, you guys have heard about NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. You've heard about how we run information through our body. You hear that some people are more visual, or they are more kinesthetic, and they have a whole model of their world, right? And you've also probably heard that there's distinctions in ways that people take in information. I mean, obviously we know this, because there's new, beautiful children being born in, which are being labeled, right? And autistic, or they're being labeled as, indigo children, or, that's not how I see it. I don't see that label. What I see is I actually see a profile of a being. And when you start to look at the world as that, isn't your business a being as well? I mean, can you begin to start shifting your whole reality into thinking that the universe has downloaded information or an idea to you? Isn't that an idea? Isn't that idea a being as well? If you really get how we work and how we are as a human being with an energetic field, you're going to start to see that you're actually a container for that light, that information. And you're going to be able to look through a new lens, just like a visual person would see through a different lens than an auditory person. Okay? So start to understand that you are profiling all the time. You're always putting someone and profiling them. You need to do that for yourself. You need to have help, yes, from other people. Again, that's why I have created what I've created in the way that I have, because it's the way that I see the world, and I'm bringing that viewpoint. And it's necessary for all of us to bring our unique viewpoint and our profile as a being, as a consciousness into the world, because it makes an impact. We make an impression. Our energetic field and what we channel through, what we flow through our being, guess what? It's a vibrational field that then sends out signals and it makes an impact. Right now, my voice that I am, the words that I'm speaking are actually coming into your energetic field and hitting that field. It's making an impression, right? And then, of course, your mind will take that information and do what it does. But also, your higher self is going to be communicating with you as well. And so you're going to feel the shifts little by little. You'll go back and forth. And you're going to take the information I said and you're going to match it up with what you now believe. And you're going to hopefully come into a place of, wow, okay, wow, I'm opening up a little. Oh, maybe I should look at it this way, or maybe I can profile myself in that way. And maybe I want to actually start to support my clients. And when I profile them, I allow them to get in on it. I don't just keep that and hold that to myself. I actually communicate that to them. So I'm not just, establishing that one-upsmanship. I'm actually now giving them what their soul really wants them to hear. And that will create the greatest shifts and changes. So your ideal client becomes the one that actually hears your story, hears your vibrational resonance, knows that you've profiled yourself so, down to the little tiny bits of, information of how you communicate and hold yourself energetically, that they will naturally respond. So it's very important to profile yourself before you even say, who is my ideal client?
So if someone wanted to profile themselves, what are a couple of tips? Is it a meditation to go into to look deep, or do you have a couple of questions you need to ask yourself and go deep on? What would that be?
Yes. So in profiling yourself, what I usually have my students do is actually go within to the space of the heart, because if you're living in your head, it's not going to work. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to acknowledge your masculine left brain, okay? And you want to acknowledge your feminine right brain. So as you acknowledge those two, you go into the space of your heart. So if I could just take just a couple minutes, I'm going to just do a little guided journey just to get you into your heart space. So everyone, if you're not driving and you can, close your eyes, disclaimer there for you, Kimberly, close your eyes and imagine that right now you're living in the house of your head, right? You're living in the house of your head. You're living in your mind. And what you want to do is you want to move out. You want to move out of the house. Turn around. Imagine putting the key under the doormat. And literally imagine traveling down to the home of your heart. Standing on the doorstep of your heart. Now open the door of your heart. So you say, higher self, give me the key to my heart. You open the door to your heart, you step over the threshold, you step into the sacred space of your heart. That's where you connect with your higher self. Higher self, please come and meet me here. So right then, what you can do to profile yourself is you can see then the current state of your masculine and feminine and how they interact. So what you would do is you would say, masculine form, aspect of me, come forward. I want to see you. Come forward. See what your masculine looks like. Check out your own masculine. Then bring your feminine aspect forward. What does your feminine aspect look like? How does your own masculine feel about your own feminine? How does your feminine feel about your masculine? What you're going to start to do, and this is just the beginning of you profiling yourself, you're going to start to see your own habits that are not necessarily you, but it's programming. How has my masculine been thinking about my feminine? Well, sometimes, and most of the time, you realize, oh my God, my masculine has been overriding my feminine intuition for years. It's been trying to make it happen. It's been trying to do. So the first step is to actually start to get clear on what the dynamic is going on inside of you and bring your masculine and feminine into teamwork, and then allow them to come back in. And from that point, start to see, how do I personally impact other people? What do I find that I'm saying where they go, whoa, or they go, wow, or oh my gosh? You start observing yourself. So you become witness observer to your own actions. You start to see how they respond. And then you write it down. You keep it in a journal. Now you can do this in 1 week. You can get so much information, and you can still go out and ask other people what they would say about you, obviously who you are for them. But you want to start asking the universe to make it very clear for you. Universe, flow life force energy and light energy through me. How do you want me to uniquely display this light energy in the world? And you're going to get more information about that. So that's the beginning process that I have, that I can tell you right now. And it's going to change your whole perspective of yourself and how you impact others, and really the way that you are this wand, this instrument for the universe. You're this magical wand. The universe says, oh my gosh, that person needs this. Okay, I'm going to send my magic wand, Kimberly, over there. And, all of a sudden that person hears your voice and knows instantly, I need to work with her.
That is a beautiful process. I was doing that visually while you were speaking, and
Okay.
it's beautiful. That's really neat. It's because you're right, we get in the way of ourselves. Our masculine seems to overpower us, right? We don't.
So much of the time, I really find, especially, obviously working with, thousands of people, getting them into a space where they can open their intuition and really know how to use their intuitive gifts. The masculine side has been pre-programmed before you even came in, because of society and the way society has built up this idea of what success is and what success means. So first off, you have to dismantle that. Obviously you've heard so many times that it doesn't matter. Things don't really generate happiness for you. Connections do. And you have to start with the connection within yourself first. So when you look at how you've been pre-programmed, start now and looking at how you override what you know is necessary for you to regenerate, to rejuvenate, to revive yourself, to get into refreshment, because all of those things are the feminine. And the feminine aspect is the manifester. So for your business, you should not, and I'm going to say should not, you should not rely solely on your masculine. Your feminine is the manifester of the two. When you are in a place where you recognize the intuitive hit coming in, it's going to wash over you as an idea, a feeling tone, or it's literally going to hit you upside your head. And it's going to say, wake up. What are you doing? You shouldn't have said yes to do that event. This is what you need to be doing, sitting home and writing. But you think, wow, if I go to that event, I'm going to meet all these people. And then, hopefully someone's going to ask me to whatever, to make my business happen, to make my business skyrocket. No, what we see is that the feminine is the manifester. In other words, she's your connector to the divine. And guess what? The way I see it is the universe is this big, beautiful golden grid. And you are connected to that grid, and so is everything else. So imagine if you're on the grid, you're connected in, and you say to the universe, hey, I think I have this intention. Is this a pure intention? Yes or no? It's going to give you a hit. Is it? Yes or no? If that idea comes in and it enlivens while you're on that grid, all of a sudden you can say, universe, let's send this intention out there. And let's start to see who's going to actually be magnetized towards me. Who's going to start coming in? If you're a little spot of light, this little beaming light on the grid, then imagine you could go on the grid and you could ask the universe to show you who you need to be connecting with as these little spots of light. Imagine them like little lanterns, in the dark, coming closer and closer to you. All of a sudden, you're feminine because she knows how to make connections. She will say, forego that. You don't need to go to that event. What you need to do is you need to write. While you're writing, you get this overwhelming hit of like, oh my gosh, you've got to connect with this person that you haven't connected with in a year. You pick up the phone, they tell you, oh yeah, I just met so and so. You need to meet them. All of a sudden, you're on a three-way call, you anchor in the deal, and it's done. That's how your feminine manifests. If you are so busy and you're not using your masculine to create a proper structure for your feminine, it's not going to work. Your life is not going to be efficient. Your feminine aspect is your efficient aspect. And so when the feminine comes in and nails that deal, it's like, okay, anchored, we got it. That's when your masculine needs to come in and create the structure to make it all happen. Okay. So for me, let's give you an example of how my masculine and feminine work together. In my business, I'm quite busy, but what I do is I use my masculine to hold tight to a structure. And that structure is this. I work for 4 weeks, I take a week off. I work for 4 weeks, I take a week off. Now, it doesn't mean that I don't work at all that 5th week. What it means is that I don't have live calls. I'm not on the phone 6 hours a day. I actually have time for movement. I have time to connect in. I have time to write, to be creative. And my masculine is supporting my own feminine by creating and holding tight to that structure. If my masculine doesn't hold tight to that structure, then my feminine actually deflates. It's like a wilting flower. There's not going to be life in there. There's not going to be light. How am I going to glow if I'm exhausted? Okay. How am I going to get ideas and how to make connections or what the next thing is, and tune into my people, my tribe, and say, what is the next need? What's the next logical thing that I need to offer? How am I going to get that? I'm not. So the masculine works for my feminine. The feminine aspect is the connection to the divine. It flows the information in. It hands it over to the masculine and says, here's what we're going to do. You make a plan of action. You create the structure. Let's implement together.
That's such a beautiful marriage of things, and the masculine creating the structure for the feminine. I've never heard it phrased that way, and that is, I love that because it's so true, because we need to be creative. Otherwise, I think that's why people don't like creating, quote unquote, the business. They don't want to do the business because they get so bogged down in the masculine side and they forget to be creative. And it's that balance that makes everyone a success.
And you have to put your structures in place. So who are you needing to hire in order to make that happen? And what are the ways that you can do that? So with my program, with Academy for the Soul, there's 3 levels. So we've got the first level, Gateway to Wholeness. Then we have the second level, Academy for the Soul Level 2, which is the Intuitive Strategist certification. And then we've got Energy Elite Mastery, which is where we actually get everyone together and we have a platform and we launch them on the platform into the world. So you look at the structures, okay? And you have to see that as you evolve your structure, you're going to have less masculine energy available. The people will pay you more for your feminine, inspiring, intuitive insights, the way that you actually can perceive for them and bring them information is way more valuable than to have a ton of videos, a ton of PDFs, which will just keeps them in their own left brain, right? So my Gateway to Wholeness program, it actually starts with the masculine. It is very masculine because we have to, go in and find the personas and really like dig deep and look at these aspects of ourselves that are not in alignment with our truth and with our purpose, right? So that's a masculine way. So that program is very masculine, has lots of videos and keynote presentations and PDFs. The second level is more of the feminine. And so with that, I spend a lot less time with all the videos and PDFs, but I spend more time with them. I literally support them. It's like it goes from like 75 people down to 24 people on a call. And so you start to see that it's more valuable, and it's 10 times the amount of money. Okay. So when you're looking at that and then you go to the next level, you want to marry the masculine and the feminine. So the Energy Elite Mastery Program marries the masculine and feminine. It has them. They've come through that whole journey. Right. And so now I want you all to see for your programs, how are you building them? So it's like one on top of the next, on top of the next, or one after, consecutively building upon itself. But start to think about what I said. The masculine first. Why? Because that's how they're going to relate first. They'll relate with their left brain, right? Their left brain's going to want information. It's going to want you to lay it all out. They're going to have to understand it. How many of you go to a program and if there's no schedule for the day, you freak out? What are we talking about? Oh my God.
When's lunch?
It's like, what? There's no schedule? You would be freaking out because your left brain needs that. So you start with creating and sharing and telling the structure. You never leave that out. But you're going to find that there's a lot of people that once, okay, they got the structure down, they can relax, and now their right brain starts opening that creative side. But start to think about your programs and whether they're just directed to that left brain masculine. And Kimberly, I see your wheels are already turning.
You can hear the little hamster, can't you?
I hear the wheels, and it's like, cool, because that's what I want to do. Is I want to have everyone realize there's such a different way. I mean, me being able to see energy and read energy, I actually see the way that we've been doing business. And Kimberly, you and I spoke about this on our chat. I see the way that we do business that's so disconnected from the heart. And if we don't change that, if we don't come together as a collective right now, we will continue to make the virtual world one that is very cold. We have to start with observing the true nature of our own being, the true nature and the cycles of nature, right? How the universe actually works and evolves naturally. And we want to duplicate that. You wouldn't say to a small tree sapling, you should be a grown oak tree by now. And it's been 2 months, and yet that's what we do with ourselves. Like we're supposed to already have evolved and already have our business launched and have a list of, 100,000. And, we're like 2 months into it, right? So you really want to step back, start to be witness observer, and allow yourself to see what are my natural rhythms, what are my natural cycles. And you've got to have the time, just like the tree goes into dormancy in the wintertime. You have to allow yourself to have your own dormancy. It's a natural process where you will go within and you will do more profiling on yourself, and you'll be able to profile the year. What's coming through? This is like advanced. This is what I teach in that Energy Elite Mastery Program. You have to know how to organically build your company and your business. If you push too hard, too fast, and you're just in your left brain, it's going to come crashing down, and then you'll have to just try to build again, or you won't get the results, or you won't get the people that you truly resonate with. You can't say I'm a heart-based business and you're just in your left brain masculine. You're going to attract the wrong type of people. So, yeah.
Such a challenge to keep that balance, I know. And especially for me personally, having come from such a left brain, Wall Street world, money, and, you fought till the death for things, and and introducing that feminine. And I have to say, it's been interesting. I'll share some personals that, like, I have who I call my spiritual partner, and our energy together, he's very masculine, and so it's been interesting to his energy is so strong on that side that I've really had to balance out my masculine and show that feminine side. And as I've balanced myself out and my feminine has become stronger, our relationship has grown so much more. And it's true in business. It's the same thing, is to be able to have that balance. And I love how you phrase that.
Yes, you have the balance within yourself first. And all of you out there that are hoping for your sweet, beloved partner to come in, balance your own masculine and feminine first. And then you're going to attract your natural opposite. You're going to attract that being that just matches you, and it just feels comfortable. For me, my intuition has supported me so much, and that I was all about purpose work, and yet, of course, having quote, failed that marriage, it's like, oh my God, it was so crushing. And I never thought that anyone would even want to marry me after that, like, oh my gosh, I've failed. No one's going to want to be with me. I'm a loser. I mean, all of those things way back then. And not too long ago, 3 years ago, I ended up coming up to the Northwest on vacation with a friend. And had been looking for my beloved, right, for years. And, I created a program that actually helped me attract that on the grid. So anyway, after I'd been doing my little soulmate attraction exercise for about a year, I come up on vacation and we go into this little town called Edmonds, Washington, just 20 minutes north of Seattle. And I literally had another lightning bolt moment. This was my second lightning bolt moment. I saw this little cute fountain in the roundabout of this little tiny village. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to meet my beloved soulmate here. And I called my girlfriend and I said, I'm moving in 2 weeks. I'm going to come back to LA, get my stuff, move back up. In 2 weeks, I had done it. Okay. And then I'm talking to my girlfriend like two and a half, 3 months later. And she goes, you're never going to meet him if you don't get out. So I go out to this restaurant and this man came in to pick up his food, and he sat down waiting for his food to go. And he said, well, you're new here, have you gone to Daphne's? And I'm like, well, no, I don't really get out too much, right? I'm a workaholic, right? And so he's like, you need to go to Daphne's. And I said, well, I'm not really one that wants to just go to a little pub. He's like, no, don't think of it like that. It's a little locals place, and it's literally the size of, a bedroom. And so anyway, we're talking, he goes, you need to go to Daphne's. Okay. And then as he's leaving, he pays for my meal. He's walking away, just came to carry out his food, right? Turns around and goes, go to Daphne's. So I go, oh my God. So I knew in that moment 3 times, that was my agreement with my guides, 3 times, and I'm going to implement. So I walk down and I literally, it's, down the street. I walk in, it's this tiny little place. I'm not kidding you. There's no room. There's this bar, and it's kind of like a London pub. And I walk in, and there's this tall man standing there. It's too deep at the bar. And he says, hey, are you new? And I said, yeah. And he goes, hey, Desmond, we got a newbie. And I'm like, oh my God. And Desmond in his accent goes, hello, sweetheart, what's your name? And I said, well, my name's Christel. And he rings this bell. Everybody meet Christel. And it's packed. It's packed. You can't even turn around. I'm literally like, and I'm very light skinned and fair, so I sneak over to the side of the bar and I'm like, okay. And I get my drink delivered to me and I turn over, there's this person next to me, and I turn and I look at this person, we're smiling, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm probably still red, even in the darkness of this place. And I look at this guy and I go, oh my God, you're very romantic. And he says, well, I usually don't let people know that, right away. And I go, no, you're like the romantic, like fireplace and candlelight, like candles and yeah. And he goes, yeah, I am. He goes, would you like to dance?
Aw.
And Fly Me to the Moon was playing, and we danced in Daphne's. And that's my beloved. We've been together 3 years.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah. So even a stranger can get you the messages. When you start living from your feminine and you start opening your gifts, believe me, you will make the connections for your personal life, for your business. It will happen for you. And my encouragement is to daily make sure that you are tuning in, move out of the house of your head, and really start to live from that space of your heart. And even if you're questioning, is this my higher self voice, or is this my true voice, or my ego voice? You have to know, is it lower self voice or higher self? Even if you question that, again, continue to be the witness observer. What happens? How do you feel? What do you sense when you know that your masculine's trying to take you down a road because it's trying to achieve for ego, rather than organically growing? Because your higher self voice, it may be a smaller step that you're going to take, but it will have a bigger impact on your life. So it's worth the effort to actually shift from that lower self, left brain, full on, egoic drive, to actually coming into the place of, what does it mean for me to actually live as my higher self, listen to that voice, make a bigger impression and impact, have a greater circle and center of influence there, right? So that you're really making the difference and growing your business as it wants to grow, because it's a conscious being.
I have to say, this has been one of my most fascinating interviews, because we didn't talk business in the traditional sense, but you gave so much value in other ways that most people don't think about. It's not about the social media, what are your strategies, but you've taken it to a whole nother level, and I know I've taken away so much, and I am sure my listeners have too.
Well, I'm glad. That's what I want. If we can really shift the paradigm here, our masculine and our feminine sides are going to be so happy. And guess what? We are going to be able to be glowing. We are going to be able to illuminate and to share our gifts heart to heart, not head to head, And I think that's going to make a huge difference in the legacy that we leave and the example that we have for our children and our grandchildren, and really to shift the paradigm like we are saying we want to do.
Absolutely. Well, you have been absolutely lovely. And if my listeners wanted to find you, where would they go?
They would go to my personal website. I think start there. It's christelhughes.com, and that is spelled in a unique way. My mom had a sense of humor. So it's spelled like Christ, CHRISTEL, Hughes, HUGHES.com. And you can find me there. And I want to invite any and all of you that have resonated with any part of this message. If you're feeling internally, wow, this is something that I've never thought about, I want to also let you know that your higher self so wants to live through you. That really is your greater mission and your greater purpose. So don't ever think, I haven't nailed it. I don't know what my true mission is. I'm flailing. I'm trying to find it. The ultimate mission is for you to live and act out the true consciousness of your higher self. And it's going to happen. It's not something that you can manufacture. It's something that's, really authentic. There's no way that you can be artificial when you're coming from your heart, and really asking every day, let me live as my higher self. Let me know the truth of myself. Ask the divine that, and that energy will come down and embody you.
Beautiful, beautiful advice. Thank you so much for all of your time. And I just know I'm going to start implementing more and being more in tune with my feminine side when I'm doing my business, because that's such a hard balance. But I'm going to be hyper aware of that now.
My pleasure to be here. Thank you, everyone, for having me. And if I can share any more, Kimberly, just reach out. We'll support people getting into their beautiful feminine dynamic abilities to manifest. Absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, everybody, for listening.
You've been listening to Spiritual Biz Chat with Kimberly Maska. Inspiration for spiritual entrepreneurs. Hear our latest interviews and join our spiritual family at spiritualbizmagazine.com.